Hey everybody, welcome back. It's the Rubbin' His Racing podcast with myself, Spider, Quiggs, Moonhead, Owen. It takes a village, right? And we are here, at least in part, because of Shady Rays. All right, guys, quick question. How are my Shady Rays basically the same quality as the $200 sunglasses I used to buy? And I'm not exaggerating. They feel every bit as premium and as expensive as any brand I've owned. Meanwhile, I'm wearing Shady Rays to the lake, on the boat, at the races, on the job site, because if I drop them in the ocean, they replace them. If I knock them off the dock, they replace them. If I sit on them one day, they replace them. And here's the crazy part. They're actually premium. Polarized lenses that cut glare hard, super clear optics, durable frames with solid hinges, clean classic styles that look sharp without trying too hard. If you're outside on the water, at the track, in the sun, driving every day, you need shades that actually perform. Go to shadyrays.com, grab a pair, and get sunglasses with lost and broken protection. If you need somebody to model them, I would really recommend you watch this on YouTube because Spider looks especially handsome in his Shady Rays. And we've teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com, use the code RUBBIN, RUBBIN, for 50% off 2 or more polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Thank you, Shady Rays, for your continued support. And this podcast is also brought to you by our friends at Body Armor. Body Armor Flash I.V. to be even more specific. Flash I.V. is packed with electrolytes, delivering faster, longer-lasting hydration without any artificial dyes, flavors, or sweeteners, whether you're training, traveling, or just feeling the heat. You can work hard and hydrate hard with Body Armor Flash I.V. Grab it at 7-Eleven or wherever you can because this stuff is the best. Hey, boys, welcome back. We have Corey Heim on the show this week. Why would we have Corey Heim on the show? Because he already did DBC. He's kind of been in the car wash here, but he doesn't run the full schedule. So when he comes back and runs in Daytona, if he doesn't, like, we wouldn't get the opportunity. So he jumped on it. We're going to try not to be too repetitive with what everybody else had said, but it's really nice to have this young man on the show. Spider and I just got done taping it, and as always, he was a absolute true professional. Spider, how you doing, my brother?
Doing great. Pumped to have a full house here today with Moonhead and Quiggs, and the boys are back. So between that and Corey Heim, I think we'll have a great episode here.
Show of hands between the four of us. Who bought a cow this week? Who bought a bull this week? Not me. You bought a fucking bull, Moonhead? You mind if I just start? Because that fascinates me. We'll get to racing in 2 seconds. How much does a bull cost?
Well, it depends these days. We paid a pretty penny for this one. But yeah, hopefully he's going to get to work. That's my hope. He's going to have a lot more fun over the next few months than I am.
That's
so what's his job? Just to have sex with your other cows?
That's the hope, yes.
And how many female cows do you have for this one bull that you've imported?
24.
Oh my God. So yeah. This bull essentially won the Kentucky Derby and is now just having sex for work.
He's doing all right for himself, yes.
Damn.
Do you, and this is the last question, and it might seem a little bit blue if any children are watching, do you jerk them off and then sell it too? Or is it just like, bovine contact, right? Do you send around loads like Moonhead's loads or something?
Right now we're keeping it all natural and letting him do all the work. But that's an avenue if times get tough we might have to explore.
I hear you. How did everybody feel about the race this weekend? We're coming out of Indianapolis at the Brickyard to mixed emotions, mixed results, not in the good race poll. That was glaringly obvious that people thought this fucking race stunk. Right? Like a 27% is not fucking kind to him. I had the benefit, I was traveling, so I was able to watch, like, kind of fast forward through some of the longer green flag laps and stuff. But even as I was watching it, I was really invested in Gilliland and Blaney, and then John Hunter kind of takes Blaney out of it. I'm like, maybe he can get back. Then I was like, but wait, there's no passing. He can't get back. Same thing like Christopher Bell trying to run down Corey Heim. Corey's going to make a mistake. But I was like, wait, you can't pass here. It almost took some of that edge off it. Is everybody pissed off at Indiana or at the Brickyard, or is everybody kind of cool with us staying there and doing our thing with the Brickyard 400? Let's get into that broader conversation about it being a crown jewel, all that kind of shit. How do you feel about the Brickyard in the wake of the last race, Spider?
Yeah, I mean, if that's, I don't know. I'm skeptically, cautiously optimistic. I was disappointed with the race. I agree, and I think people have the right to be critical over this race. I think it's really cool we go to IMS, and it's a historic place. I think Joey Logano hit the nail on the head. Now, that being said, I would love for my memory coming away from race there, a NASCAR race there rather, to be like, wow, what a great race. Like, don't get me wrong. I was happy for Corey Heim. I was happy for Todd Gilliland, who won the in-season challenge, won $1 million.
Yeah.
But like, at what cost? The race was incredibly boring, in my humble opinion. And yeah, I mean, I don't think the lore of like IMS or even the storylines of Todd or Corey justify how big of a kind of snoozer that race was, which again is incredibly disappointing because I want this to be an exciting crown jewel event. It's tough when you have a venue of 200,000 people and the attendance is 70. Like, to me, that doesn't scream crown jewel. And I don't know what we can do to make it better, if it's the cars, if it's the package, if it's, I don't know. But I didn't love it. And this is one where, unfortunately, I try to be optimistic and positive as much as possible. This is one I have to be honest and critical about. And I just needed more from this race, especially if it's going to be a crown jewel. Also, like, just the people, the pearl clutching with like the burnouts on the bricks. I don't know. The whole thing, like, to me, that's what I'm going to remember, is people getting mad and washing the bricks with like a wire brush, and then also a kind of underwhelming race. When, to me, when we're talking about a crown jewel, we should be, yo, this was the best race of the year. And to me, this probably was one of the top 3 stinkers of the year. So maybe I'm just being too critical. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions, but a little underwhelmed as much as there were storylines that excited me this weekend.
Quiggs, I can't imagine you're going to be positive.
No, I thought it sucked dick.
Okay.
It wasn't good. It's like, if you're having attendance issues, that's not the way to fix it. Like, the best way to fix attendance issues is for people to be like, oh fuck, we should have gone to that race. And I don't think there's anyone on our, like, the attendance is going to be worse next year. The people that did go are going to be like, that's not worth paying for. There's just no passing. I mean, the whole like crown jewel thing is almost like a concept more than a real thing, but it's like, that's not a race that's like a must see, tune in at, like one of 5 races that you have to see. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it is like historical, and I'm not saying like rip it from the calendar, but it's just not. It wasn't it.
And before people come at us for the empty stands, it seems like people need to explain this multiple times. I don't think it needs to be explained anymore. We get it. 70,000 is a nice crowd. Like, 70,000 is 2 to 3 times what we'll see at Iowa, or, you know, we get it. It's 70,000 is a nice crowd, but it just, you know, 4 inches is a nice size cock, but not in an 8-inch vagina. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, go for something else. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't seem to fit that. Or maybe, like, we'll ask Corey. Hey, Corey, you're a guy who's super focused. Do you notice the empty, stands? Just from a driver's perspective, it is glaringly obvious. But I get it. 70 is a lot. 70,000 is a ton. I just don't, I mean, maybe I just don't have reverence. I'm a history guy. I love history. I've twisted history as a podcast. I don't get the reverence. I really don't get the reverence here. And for the Indy 500, I get that, man. It's fucking. But to Quiggs' point, if somebody asks me, I'm going to 3 races this year, I'm going to watch 3 races on TV. Either one of those answers is not going to be Indy for me, to go or to watch. Moonhead, you had been one of those guys that was carrying the torch, saying, listen, NASCAR races are perfect in length. I love stage breaks and I love long cautions. But you had tweeted out, listen, I think I'm on board with making these races short because this is one of the worst races that I've seen, at least for this season. How are your takeaways from there after you had done buying all that bull semen?
So, yeah, I've been kind of down on Indy for a while.
Okay.
I've never really been a huge fan of NASCAR there. That said, you know, mid-2000s, it raced considerably better than it does now, even if we didn't realize it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like it's consistently gotten worse. I mean, it got so bad at one point they put it on the road course, and that sucked too. So in my opinion, I don't view it as a crown jewel. I think it's kind of run its course. I think it's just a yearly embarrassment for NASCAR, really, because we have to watch IndyCar have, the most prestigious race in the world there, and then we go there, and it almost feels like we're just trying to pretend we're them or have to, prove ourselves as a legitimate series by going there. And to me, every time the race ends at Indy, the conversation isn't, oh, this guy's life just changed because he won this big prestigious race. It's always, man, this race sucked, and people arguing whether or not it's a crown jewel. So I hated the race. I don't think I'm in the minority there. I think most people were bored with it, but I think overall they're going to have to throw something at the package or something if they want this to stick around, because I think it's a black eye on the sport every time we go there. I really do. Because to your point, yes, 70,000 is a big number, but not at a place like Indy. You know what I mean? And you can look at the early races. NASCAR didn't have a problem packing it out back in the day. There's a reason people, locals included, decided we don't like this anymore and don't show up. And to me, I think that weekend could be better used somewhere else. Now, I don't think that they're ever going to get away from Indy because of the history there. And it's not a knock on the track, but it doesn't do it for me. It never has, and I don't think it ever will.
I think that's a good point to make, Moon, and I think all of us probably echo that. It's not a knock on the track. And even though I don't, put in for the reverence to it, I really dig the kissing of the bricks, searching for bricks in the creek and all that stuff. It is a beautiful track. It is a beautiful golf course.
Yeah.
And the way the golf course kind of, after Spider and I had that event there, watching how the golf course kind of slides into the infield like that seamlessly, it's a very cool place. And the people there are wonderful. I went to college in Indiana. I'm very fond of the state itself. This isn't a bias. I'm just saying we need more from there. And I don't think they're going to develop a special package for fucking Indianapolis. I don't believe they are. So, you just kind of leave, I don't know, just
you're right, though, Large. I don't want to. I've been to Indy. I mean, several times, three plus times, I think. And every time I've come away and just been, floored with the facilities that exist there. Whether it's the golf course, whether it's the track, whether it's the pagoda, you name it. It's a historic place, and I'm not trying to poo-poo the track and one of the most, pristine race, the Augusta of motorsports, maybe. My point is something needs to change internally on the NASCAR side, because to Moonhead's point, you go to watch IndyCar there and, so do 200,000 other people, and it's the biggest day in their sport, and it's got that it factor. And for whatever reason, NASCAR doesn't have that. So I think it's something internally that needs to change. Probably the cars, which to your point, again, Large, is not likely and is a bigger concern. I don't know. The bunch of time, development, research went into this next-gen car, and it's been around long enough where I think we're allowed to be critical of it. And as much as it may produce great races at tracks like Atlanta, and we give them flowers for that, we can, in the same breath, be critical when we see a race like Indy.
You said the Augusta of motorsports. I think we oftentimes ask for hidden gems, like the Tim Duncan of motorsports, operates at a high level but doesn't get a lot of the press. And so I always say Michigan for that. Michigan was so sneaky good when I got there. I wasn't expecting it, and it over-delivered. What is the Augusta of NASCAR? It's not Indy. What's the Augusta of NASCAR for you, Spider?
For me, it's an easy answer, and I mean, maybe not easy, because now I'm thinking about it a little.
It's tough.
The first one that pops into my head is Daytona. I think they have elite facilities. I think the track is awesome. I think the racing is always good. The product there has pretty much always been good, as much as, like, there may be some shifting strategy or fuel-saving talk, whatever it is. There's always a banger finish at Daytona. If not Daytona, I would say Charlotte. But those are the two at the top of mind for me in terms of best facilities, well done, well taken care of, and good product. And that, to me, is what Augusta is.
What's the Augusta of NASCAR, Quicks?
I mean, I guess I'll look at it differently. More like when you walk into Augusta, you're like transformed into a different world. Mm-hmm. So I'll go with Talladega for that, but not in the like pristine, high quality. Yeah.
No, I think that's worth mentioning. Like Spider is saying it from the quality of the facilities and stuff like that. But Augusta may not be the best golf course in the world, but it does have a reverential feel when you go in there. You're like, this is decidedly different. I think there are some great college football stadiums to go to. Notre Dame is not the best college football stadium, but when you go in there, you almost feel like you're walking into a church to a certain degree.
Yeah.
So it sort of becomes the Augusta of college football stadiums for me. So yeah, Talladega, when you kind of think of it in that respect, except it doesn't really have a lot of running water. What's the Augusta of NASCAR for you, Moonhead?
I'd have to agree with Spider, just because Daytona's kind of the one track that I feel like every time I go to, I like stare at the grandstands and just things about it. And I'm like, damn, this is really nice.
Yeah. I think
also,
Bristol. For me, I think it's Bristol.
Bristol's a good pick as well. That place fucking rocks. And like, it truly is one of the last like Coliseums with just the 360 grandstands. But yeah, like Moonhead said, to me, every time I go to Daytona, which is like luckily annually at this point, I remain fascinated and floored just by the scale. And like from a history standpoint, the sport was literally invented like bootlegging and racing on the beaches of Daytona. So from that angle, I think it's got to be Daytona. Plus they have goats like Frank Kelleher.
Yeah, my man. Yeah, we talked about him with Ben Kennedy. By the way, the Ben Kennedy thing did real well.
Well, I wanted to
thank you for coming on, Ben.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Large. And from my takeaway, I unfortunately couldn't make that interview, but you did a great job.
Thanks.
My takeaway watching this and the internet's reaction was, holy shit, both you and Ben are in the crosshairs following this.
I'm fucking dead.
And I think people, not to come to your defense as much as I'm usually critical of you myself.
Yes.
I think a lot of people like kind of maybe straw man argument is the term I'm looking for, or they kind of took your words out of context. Yeah. I think what you and Ben were saying was not that like any fan wants less racing. I think it's what we want is less yellow flags, less cautions. There's no reason a debris caution should take over 10 minutes. There's no reason Blaney blowing a tire should be yellow for 30 plus minutes. So to me, I think it's a very valid, fair conversation as much as everyone online got their panties in a bunch. We're not asking for shorter racing like that. I'm saying that could be tightened up from the aspect of the yellow flags, the cautions. Maybe it's the stage breaks. Like every time watching a race, there's so much dead air, and we need to fix that.
Or less laps. I'm not saying not less laps, but in certain places. Like maybe in North Wilkesboro, like there are certain places where you don't have to do that much. I'm not saying screw with what works. Right. I'm saying that if I'm going to have a 24-minute stage break, we're going to have, yellow flag laps on a gigantic track like fucking Indy. Just cut them. There are ways to move this thing along. There are ways. And, but if you're going to drive all this way, I think most of the people who are driving to go to tracks would love to go for a great action-packed 2.5-hour race than a fuel-saving, yellow flag, stage-breaking 3.5-hour race. I just feel that might be true for most people. But either way, I thought it was really nice that Ben Kennedy did come out here and all that stuff. He happened to be in New York, so we appreciate that. And everyone else who's asking to have my hard card revoked, which is awesome. I fucking love it. I'm in the suck now. One more negative thing. I was watching the Brickyard race. That was the worst national anthem I've seen in quite some time. I don't know if anyone, this is going to be personal, I don't know if anyone else had seen it. The guy was fucking terrible. And the only thing that saved his life was the flyover. The middle plane was one of those big, like, the fuelers. So it had its big old patriotic fucking fueling dick hanging from the back while it had 2 fighter jets on the side. And I was like, all right, I'm back. Go USA. But that fucking guy shit the bed, so. And that's it. That's all the negativity that we have.
I somehow missed it, but I'll take your word for it.
Oh, my God, Spider. It was tough. It was Fergie-esque, to be honest. Denny Hamlin has made a bunch of comments since the race has ended, and a lot of it was, it seems, Denny speaks so matter-of-factly, but we all know that he could be a prick, right? That sometimes it comes off the wrong way. Like when he got out of the car, I was like, ooh, he's kicking that can right at Christopher Bell on why he didn't win the fucking race. And then Christopher Bell was like, no, Briscoe was too early on the bump. You know what I mean? It seemed like they were passing the blame. But I think when you break it down a little bit, it seemed like there was some machinations in place that just didn't go the way that they should. Did that come off as Denny trying to push the blame on somebody to you guys, or was I totally mishearing it?
I don't know what to make of it. I will say, watching that the race, the end of the race, I was surprised at the Toyotas, and not for really a good reason. As much as they won the race and have been running great, like I was disappointed because they had a bunch of guys like I think it was Denny and Bell on the inside lane in the final restart, and they just weren't hooked up. They weren't on the same page, and even Denny on the radio before that was like, "Hey, we got numbers here. Let's work together," and they seemingly didn't. So. I'm glad Heim won. I'm glad Gilliland won, but I was surprised at their lack of willingness to kind of work together there at the end. And maybe I misinterpreted that, but I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in a race like what we saw Sunday, it almost has to be every man for himself just because track position is so crucial. You know what I mean? Like if you cut a teammate a break, and it costs you 4 spots, you're probably, getting one of those back at best. I mean, that's what happened to Denny, really. Like, the restart was bad, and then he had to make the decision on whether or not to wreck his own car, basically, when Heim cut in front of him there. So, I mean, I don't know. It didn't really necessarily shock me all that much.
Is he impressing the shit out of you, Corey Heim? Is he? I mean, I know that everyone says, well, that San Diego race, nobody knew what they were doing, right? It was a whole new thing, and you also hear like some people, perhaps, PSYOP Carson Hocevar fans saying, Ryan Preece taking the 4 tires, Bell not giving him the right push, as opposed to Logano. Like they try to explain how this kid, I don't feel like he's falling into these wins. Is everyone like on the same page? I'm not glazing him. I don't think he's going to listen to the episode before he's on it. But this kid's fucking real, right? Like this is, we spoke about Connor Zilic and how we all said that he's going to be very good in the Cup Series and still believe that. I'm expecting this guy to be good right away, right? 2 wins in 15 races is sort of why I'm thinking about that. But is there any misconception that this kid's the fucking real deal from anybody?
Well, I mean, Large, it's easy to say that. I mean, like you just said, he's won 2 races in 15 starts. And, I think that's a testament to how good of a driver he is. We see a lot of kids struggle with the transition from O'Reilly or trucks even to Cup. And he seemingly did it the slow, methodical route. And, he said it in our interview, not to tip it, but he's like, I think it's important. It's just as important the people you surround yourself with as the route you choose. So I think he's done things the right way, and I think he's kind of bet on himself and been rewarded for doing so. Just through 15 races, we've seen him win twice, and I think next year, 2311 is going to be really, really formidable team with Tyler Reddick. I'm not sure I even used that word correctly, Large.
No, you nailed it.
Okay, great. But yeah, they're going to be formidable with Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace, and Corey Heim, who's now already won twice. But while we're giving credit to Corey Heim, I also want to give a little credit to myself. When we were talking about potential 48 replacements, I said it was all guys that's name started with C that I was looking for in that ride, whether it's Carson Hocevar, Corey Heim, or Connor Zilic. And I stand by it. Those would be the 3 candidates I would want in that car if I'm Rick Hendrick. And, I mean, I have some other thoughts on Hendrick and where they stand right now.
Let's talk about Hendrick in a couple of seconds because that's how I start the interview, obviously, with Corey Heim. I kind of threw a dart at Hendrick. I didn't mean to, but it just is what it is. The numbers don't lie. Somebody had just put up, these guys who do the stats on X are awesome. I wish I just remember, like Bozy and Toronto does some great work. There was some other guy who I don't know who put up maybe active drivers and how long it took them to win their first 2 races. I think Christopher Bell was the lowest amount at 94. And then Shane Van Gisbergen came in and basically, did that in a third of the time with 30 races before Shane won the 2. And then Corey Heim comes in and cuts that in half and gets him in 15. So there's no doubt that the kid is good. I'm wondering if, like I say, recency bias all the time, if I'm putting the cart before the horse, because he is so fucking young. Let's break it down a little bit more, but before we do, I just want to tell you guys about something else. This episode is also sponsored by BLUECHEW. Guys, sex is back on the table or the counter or the bed or wherever you do it, thanks to BLUECHEW Gold, the new arousal-boosting formula from the #1 better sex brand. BLUECHEW is making bedrooms noisy again, and it doesn't just get you hard, it gets you aroused, horny, turned on. Got performance anxiety? Not with this. Blue Chew Gold quiets the noise so you can handle business. Blue Chew Gold is better sex in a tablet. They combine 4 ingredients into one powerful solution. 2 ingredients get you hard physically, and 2 support arousal and desire in the brain. It works fast and it lasts. Guys, have a complete experience in the bedroom with Blue Chew Gold. There's a reason Blue Chew is #1 brand for better sex. Experience it yourself at BlueChew.com, and we've got a special deal for our listeners. Right now, when you buy 2 months of Blue Chew Gold, you get the 3rd free with the promo code RUBBIN. That's promo code RUBBIN. You will also receive an additional 10% off plus free overnight shipping on your first order. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the pod and the bedroom. Hendrick, so what's going on? Is this all hands on deck? Kyle Larson was probably one of the fastest cars on the track. He cut a tire, and Hendrick just can't seem to get out of its way, stepping on its dick. We're going to talk about Alex Bowman in a couple of seconds because there's a bunch of stuff to talk about them. Are we alarmed with Hendrick yet? Is it time to pull the alarm when Spire is the best Chevy team in the Cup Series right now?
Absolutely, and like you look at the standings this year, we've been super critical of the Fords and Team Penske previously on this show, and I think if we're going to do that, the Hendrick Motorsport also deserves some criticism for the way that they've been running this year. Larson hasn't won in over a year. Granted, he's still 8th, but I mean, like you said, Large, Hocevar is ahead of every Hendrick car. And his stat line this year, aside from one less win, is better than Chase Elliott's, and obviously a win is super substantial. But I'm worried about the Hendrick cars. I mean, Bowman and Byron have been obviously a little bit underwhelming this year, and then Chase Elliott's been a nice surprise with 2 wins. But even that, I mean, Chase Elliott of the past, like 2 wins is nothing for the Chase Elliott of the past. So it's good to see him back in winning lane, in victory lane rather. But I still think there's tremendous work to be done with the Hendrick cars. And maybe they're just kind of slow rolling and waiting and, trying to get into the playoffs and before they really go balls to the wall with whatever they have up their sleeve potentially. But it seems like they've taken a little bit of a step back and Spire has taken a massive step forward. And again, I don't know if that's evidence to the argument that Denny Hamlin is saying, but it's certainly been a little bit concerning. And the other thing is, in the same breath as Hendrick, Trackhouse should be incredibly worried, even more panicked than Hendrick. Trackhouse, I saw a clip from Justin Marks answering about Connor Zilich's future, and the clip led me to believe that Zilich was already signed to the 48. And I mean, I'm not saying that this is the case by any means. I'm saying reading between the lines, it led me to believe that Justin Marks was of the opinion it's going to be a very uphill battle to retain Connor Zilich past next season at Trackhouse. And in that same breath, Ross Chastain, SVG, and Connor Zilich are all free agents at the conclusion of next season, which I don't know. I think Trackhouse has got a lot of shit they got to figure out before those guys are willing to stick around long term, because all 3 of those drivers are guys that in better equipment I think would be obviously better drivers.
Absolutely. Trackhouse is in trouble, but I think SVG resigns, right? Like SVG is the darling of that place, and he'll do what SVG does. And he's only gonna get better as far as I'm concerned. And then Ross Chastain, I think, but it's that Connor Zilich. I don't know what's going to hold him there. And I'm wondering if Trackhouse lets him go a little easier than you think. Do you know what I mean? Because of his performance in that car. Like, they don't have to bump up the number to get a driver to give them that performance. It's been talked about a lot this week how Corey Heim has more owner points than Connor Zilich. Like that type of thing. And he's only run 8 races so far. So, it's a disappointing for a rookie of the year, as Connor Zilich is guaranteed to be. It's a disappointing season. We all know that. We all know he's going to snap out of it. But I don't know if they're really going to want to keep him. You can't fight Hendrick, I don't think, on this. Let's talk about the Hendricks thing. So, Hendrick thing. Alex Bowman retiring. health reasons and some other stuff, just wants to take a different direction. We wish him the best of luck. Denny had mentioned on his podcast about how back injuries, you just really can't feel the car in your ass. Like Denny was talking about that. So he kind of, and plus on top of that, the vertigo and all that kind of shit. It's the perfect time for him to do it, I guess, for most. I think the unspoken thing, too, is with health after the passing of Kyle Busch, the untimely passing of Kyle Busch. Maybe drivers are concentrating a little bit more on their health on the long term, too. But either way, for whatever reason he's doing it, we wish him only the best of luck. But I think he's getting fucked by Jimmy Johnson. Like, this is now Alex Bowman's last Daytona 500. Jimmy Johnson had a very good week. First of all, he got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. No other NASCAR driver has ever had a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I think that's cool as shit. And when he's running his last Daytona 500 in 2027, he's going to be in the iconic 48. So, which means I don't know what's going to happen with Alex Bowman, but it's also Alex Bowman's last Daytona 500 as far as we're concerned. Kind of weird there. How do we feel about Alex's treatment then at Daytona at the beginning of his retirement tour?
I can't say I'm surprised by the news. It seemed like Bowman was kind of headed towards the door of Hendrick. I guess I will say I'm happy to see it's on his own terms and he's ultimately sticking around for next year, and we'll hang it up at the conclusion of that. But I can't help but think like this feels a little bit like, I don't know. And I know you mentioned like his health and whatnot, and I want to point out he mentioned that it wasn't as much health as like the media and people were leading people to believe. He said when he joined Hendrick and he sat down with them, this was the timeline he always had in mind, was to race till about this point in his life. I think he's going to be 34 years old when he retires, which I'm jealous of. If you told me I could work 4 more years and be retired, shit, how do we make that happen, Dave?
Yeah, I'm 20 years too late.
From that angle, I love it, and I like to think that he's kind of going out on his own terms. Now, that being said, like he's also said some super unencouraging things in the wake of this. Like I heard him give an interview, I think it was with Jeff Gluck, and one of the things he said was like, as recently of March of this year, so like right after the Daytona 500, he was like very sure that this current season would be it for him. And to me, that's not really an encouraging thing you want for a driver to say. Like you kind of want your guy to be like, listen, I'm here for the long haul. I'm the guy, like almost like Brad Keselowski, who's like stubbornly like, I'm going to keep racing until someone pulls me out of this car kind of vibe. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, from one angle, this is what he always said he was going to do. From the other angle, him kind of having to give up his number in his final Daytona 500 start. It's kind of, it kind of sucks for him, I feel like.
Great for Jimmy. I just think that it's somewhat, people are just saying, well, what's Alex going to do? Oh, we'll find out. It's a big one for this guy, right? And I know it's Jimmy Johnson versus Alex Bowman.
Right. That's
as many championships as wins. But still, it just kind of strikes me as weird. Anybody have any feelings about Alex Bowman going into his retirement year?
I don't know. I knew when they said, or like when the Vertigo stuff came out, like Vertigo's a weird thing that's not, I don't know if uncurable is the right word, but like it's just like a weird thing that doesn't really get better. Racing's got to be a tough sport for kind of like the triggers of vertigo and all that. And I don't know, I feel like setting a retirement for that far down the line is a little bit weird, where it's like, if it's bad enough that you have to retire kind of soon, why is the soon like in a year and a half rather than like I don't know. I don't want to wish this or whatever, but I don't know if he makes it.
But we do have to guess a little. Like, you know what I'm saying? I know you're trying to put it out there. Spider said it wasn't all health. You know what I mean? Like there are, but you do have to sort of guess. It's what we do, unfortunately, right? Or fortunately, because we get paid for it.
Well, then my guess would be that he doesn't make it to the end of next season.
Really?
Yeah, I think he may have to retire earlier than that if he's having those thoughts right now and putting a deadline on his last race. I think it's probably worse than we know.
Okay. How do you think he's going to be remembered, Alex Bowman, Moon? Like when you look back and you have all these people in your head and you're like, oh, that guy, he was this, he was that. How are you going to remember Alex Bowman in 5 years, 10 years?
I mean, he has a really cool story, regardless on how performance has been the last few years. To go from, being a dirt racer out west to running shit boxes in NASCAR for all those years, and then kind of in a very unforeseen way ending up for the team, especially at the time. It's a cool story. To me, I think the injuries and some of the health problems probably, played a role in performance later down the line. But yeah, I mean, I think he'll be remembered as a very cool underdog story at the very least. Now, to me, I don't know that, hearing him say that about health, to me, it almost just strikes me as like a "you can't fire me, I quit" situation, where like he kind of he hears the saxophones or whatever the TikTok trend is, and he sees Corey Day or Connor Zilish or all these young guys who are probably going to be sought after in the next few years. Why not go out on your own terms? You know what I mean? Or maybe he would stay with Hendrick and just keep running like shit. And who wants to do that? You can go out a cup winner. He won a few seasons ago. If he never wins again, he still had a better career than most people who try racing. You know what I mean? So I'm not a Bowman hater. That said, I'm not like a lot of the fans on Twitter who are a little crazy and act like he's a first ballot Hall of Famer or something either. But I wish him the best. I think I like seeing guys go out on their own terms, and I think Bowman's a guy who likes all sorts of different kinds of racing. So I don't think him retiring from cup racing means that he's going to go, fade off into obscurity. I'm sure we'll see him running midgets or sprint cars or micros or something of that nature.
8 wins in 371 races over 12 years, including a 4-win season in 2021, right? So there are like some real bright spots for Alex Bowman fans and whatnot. I'm wondering, though, he was very generous. He gave us a hood. I have one of the Ally hoods hanging in the office here. Think I can get a lot for it now? Like, I don't know. Like, So if you guys figure that out, can somebody let me know? Let's talk about Carson Hocevar. We'll talk about what had happened on the track first, then we'll go and talk about his most recent tweets. So Carson Hocevar, in my opinion, got it fed to him this week on the track, like to pick a fight with somebody who then wins, right? Like the whole flip off thing, like the Hocevar guys are, going crazy about, that's my guy and all that kind of shit. Corey Heim didn't see it and goes on to win and all that. So I'm going to wear the ring on my middle finger. By the way, Corey Heim, I think I'm going to start calling him the Velvet Hammer because he says some very like low key shit. Just tweets out, son, I'll wear the ring on the middle finger. Why do you guys care about the 9th place finisher? Those little fucking daggers, they cut deep. This kid is like media trained, very, very calm and cool. But so then Hocevar gets into this situation where he's trying to get back on the lead lap, and Corey is essentially blocking him. But it's also at Indy where every spot counts, as Quiggs was just saying, and the lack of passing, as we were all talking about. So even if that's why Corey was doing it, he wasn't doing it to fuck Carson Hocevar, even though we all know that he kind of was. Is this what we're going to expect to see with Carson Hocevar for the rest of the season? We had saw with the restarts how important it was for Joey Logano. And I know Joey was trying to move him out of the way to try and make that last-ditch effort. Joey Logano helping Corey Heim. We were talking about Chris Bell helping Denny Hamlin. Chase Briscoe behind Chris Bell helping Denny Hamlin. Where is that help going to come from Carson Hocevar? You think he's fucking not somebody who is ever going to get any kind of help on the track, at least for the immediate future?
I mean, it's tough that, like, you look at a guy like Ricky Stenhouse who's on a team of his own, and he seemingly has great relationships. He's came on the show and been like, it doesn't even really matter if you're out there alone, if you have rapport with some of the drivers and your peers around you. And for whatever reason, it seems like Carson Hocevar is more out on an island on his own than guys like Stenhouse or maybe some of the, like, well, I guess Josh Berry's a bad example. He's got 3 teammates essentially. But, yeah, Hocevar seems like he's on his own. And the only guy I could see really working with him is like Suarez or McDowell. But maybe the Hendricks. I don't know. But in terms of the other manufacturers, I don't think they're ever going to give him a push or be willing to work with him, especially given kind of his current reputation in the garage.
Yeah, but that was a definitive L this week.
Yeah.
Like when you're going to talk that much shit and you pick the one guy who then goes on to fucking win, I don't see that often. And I don't think enough people are talking about how, Corey Heim dominated him this week. Made him his like a prison bitch. Hold my fucking, my belt loop and we'll walk around the yard. And I think Carson would know that because he doesn't seem to care. So if he gets dealt an L, he'd be like, yeah, the guy fucked me this week. And then he goes on and puts out a very, very precisely timed tweet last night, by the way. So I don't know. I don't think. I think it's going to come back to haunt him a little bit more than maybe I thought it was before this week. I guess that's all I'm saying. But then let's go and talk about that tweet. Carson Hocevar puts out a tweet, and again, nothing's on accident. This was a very well-timed tweet, and it was a long one. I don't think I'm going to read it, right? I shouldn't read it, right? But he was sitting there since watching the 2000 Talladega race, and he was comparing how the experience was back then to how it was, how it is now. And he's saying like he's sick of telling people that you need to go to the track and all that stuff. I think he just wants an all-around experience for the fans, which is not rage bait. That's glee bait, right? For all the people who hate NASCAR, hate the new car, hate stage breaks, all that kind of stuff. So that was a very well-timed tweet after a weekend where he got a stool pushed in. How do we feel about Carson Hocevar's tweet and what he's saying? I didn't see anything overly groundbreaking in it. It seems to just be like the complaints that most people have with how NASCAR is running. Did I miss anything in there that would lead me to believe that it's something that I should be reading out loud?
I don't really know what to make of what he said, to be honest. From where I sit, it's like there's plenty. I'm kind of 50-50. There's plenty of times where I'm like, oh, going to the track is the best thing on earth. And then there's other races where I'm like, damn, watching on TV might have been the move for this race. Sometimes it's a road course. Sometimes it's a short track where you can't have a conversation with the next person beside you. But I think Carson's onto something here where we should try to get to a point where everything is worth watching, whether it's from in person or on TV. And there are certainly tracks, again, not to go back to what we were talking about previously, but there's definitely some underwhelming, unexciting stuff that could probably be modified or increased or improved, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
What did you think,
Yeah.
Quicks?
I mean, it's not wrong, but it's everything is like the nostalgia of things is always better. Like you could like with everything, they'll be like Barstool used to be better when it was Dave and Boston,
Right?
A lot like, and it's like no, it's like in 5 years you'll be like, oh, Barstool 5 years ago with the yak going on was so great. Like everything in nostalgia, you forget the bad parts, you remember the good parts. But I don't know, it's not wrong. Like there are things that could be changed and better, but I don't know. It's I think it's a little bit of just like, yeah, of course back in the day, like things were a little more ideal.
And it erases all the stuff from last weekend, I think. You're putting it out on the Wednesday or whatever, Tuesday night or Wednesday of it. Like, again, this is extremely – you see it as calculated too, right, Moon? Like this seems like it was almost damage control. No,
absolutely. I agree with what he said, but, I mean, that was a race that happened before he was born. So I don't – you kind of, like Quig says, you have to have like the full scope of it all. But yeah, it was 100%. I definitely think that somebody in a suit or a collared shirt has encouraged him with a few different talking points, and he realized that Heim's kind of making him look like a poser right now because Carson talks all this shit and he's got one win he backed into, and Heim's out here in 15 starts winning on a road course and winning at Indy. So I think that he just had to, do something to get back in good graces with the fan base. So
he does have a right to talk some shit because he is fifth, right, in the standings. He does have the win, and it's not like it's just. I don't want to call out anybody who's not that good, but one of those people saying this, like Carson does have, but he also is having other people turn in T-shirts and, doing all this kind of,
I just think he's making more enemies. You can't have everybody mad at you. I think that's what, I think it was Jamie McMurray said. Like,
you can have one person. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you can get mad. Like, if he wants Corey Heim to be his guy, like, have that rivalry. But taking shots at Denny Hamlin, taking shots at all this while your team is in a lawsuit, with these people over potentially stolen data. I don't think that's talked about enough. I think it's kind of wild that Suarez and Hocevar, they seem to run pretty similar to the Gibbs cars right now. And to me, that doesn't make, Spire look very good in the grand scheme of things. But that's just my opinion. I'm obviously in the minority.
Denny's opinion too.
Yeah, I know, but I think Denny Hamlin. What does he know? He's only raced 25 years in the Cup Series or whatever it is. So, yeah, I mean, I think anybody with racing knowledge would agree that he's not doing himself any favors. From a fan's perspective, though, whether I like him or not, it doesn't matter. He's getting people excited, and I think having a driver that has personality, even if it's not a personality I care for, is good. We need more of that. We need more of the banter. I'm all for it, but you got to back it up right now. Like, Corey Heim is owning Carson Hocevar right now. And I'm not even saying that from a hater's perspective, but
right.
You can't talk the big game and then have a guy with 15 starts double your win count. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. And I, to your point too, like not raising awareness, but even putting out stuff from his vantage point, because he does have a high profile. It'd be like Cletus tweeting this out as well. NASCAR seems like it's listening. On the Hauler Talk podcast, Mike Ford said that NASCAR officials started discussions during the Brickyard 400 about tightening the yellows in the future. That's positive. I think also moving the Clash back to Daytona. People have mixed opinions about it, but I think most fans were like, why are we out in fucking here and all that stuff, moving back to Daytona, and they're doing it. Whether or not it works out, it's going to be the Saturday before Super Bowl. It seems like, and I've mentioned this I've blown NASCAR a lot this season about some of the stuff that they put in, which it seems like they're answering what the fans want. So, and maybe having high-profile guys like Carson Hocevar right now is helping that along. So it's a win-win for everybody, I think, to a certain degree. We got a couple more things to talk about, but before we put a bow on what had just happened last week, I don't think there's any better way to do it than to talk to the race winner, and that's Corey Heim. And this interview is brought to you guys by Cuervo. From the first lap till the checkered flag, there's only one choice. Winning on race day is all about momentum, and nothing matches the energy, excitement, and adrenaline quite like Cuervo. So whether you're at home, in the infield, or taking over the tailgate, Cuervo is the winning move that elevates any race into an occasion you'll remember. No matter who's in victory lane, you can win every race day from the first lap to the checkered flag. Keep it Cuervo. And with that, let's go 3 wide with Corey Heim. All right, so as promised, we have a young buck in the house. Hendrick Motorsports has 2 fucking wins this season. So does Corey Heim. Chase Elliott, the most popular driver in the history of wheels, has no crown jewel wins. Corey Heim has 1. Corey Heim has 15 races so far in the Cup Series with 2 wins. I think to shorten this thing, Corey Heim is better than the Odyssey by Christopher Nolan. That's going to piss some people off for no reason at all. Corey, thank you so much for carving out some time on your whirlwind tour after your latest win. How's everything doing? How are you coming down from the elation? As a guy who's straight up and down, 6 o'clock, ice water in his fucking veins, did you let loose and go a little crazy? Because you should be on the top of the world right now.
Not nothing too crazy, man.
Okay.
But it was definitely a heck of a weekend, and winning a crown jewel, especially like this early in my career, it's something I could have never really drawn up, and that sort of played into like how it was just unexpected, So it's like almost hard to like prepare for something like that, and kind of just shooting from the hip on the celebration stuff. So no, it's been a good weekend, man. I appreciate it.
Can I ask the first question, Spider?
Go ahead, please.
Where do you get the balls, Corey Heim? Denny Hamlin is a guaranteed Hall of Famer. He's got more jewels and trophies, but he's missing that one crown jewel. He's your boss, and you took that from him. Denny seems to be like, during his podcast, one of the co-hosts had said, when do you go from being a driver to being an owner? And not disappointed in Corey, but being disappointed in how the race ended and just being proud. And Denny said, right now. Right now, I'm all Team Corey and stuff like that. Does that little nuance run through your head as you're saying on the restart? Hey, listen, I'm going to make this move, which is a move that you had to make. No one's saying it was dirty or anything like that, but you did it against the guy who's giving you your shot in the Cup Series. That ever crossed your mind that you might be, biting the hand that feeds you?
I guess like leading up to the restart, but honestly, if you go through a restart and you have to think about what you're doing in the moment and it's not just a natural reaction as to what's happening, you can't think about anything. You just have to execute and you have to do it. So when I saw that he had a run to my left side and had a chance to get to my inside into turn two, I just immediately instinctually blocked it. And I knew that was going to be basically the race for the win. I mean, that was almost as if it was the last lap because of how friggin' hard it was to pass on Sunday. So, I mean, you run through that stuff, coming to a restart and think about, the possible outcomes of if I find a way to mess this up and take us both out or something. But at the end of the day, man, it's you kind of get into a mode where it's instincts and you just got to execute at that point.
We see some Cup drivers go years between wins, and it seemed like it was like, what, 2-3 weeks? I'm curious to know like what you did following San Diego ahead of Indianapolis in that kind of recess time you had to prepare for the crown jewel that was the Brickyard. Like, what do you focus on? And was there something that you think ultimately gave you an edge ahead with that preparation you had done leading up to Indy?
Yeah, I mean, I got to do the Wheel Force Cup Series test at Indy. I think it was in between San Diego and Indy. It might have been actually the following week of San Diego. So got kind of a head start on that, but still feel like I was many laps behind experience-wise. There's a lot of guys in the field, of course, that have raced there a bunch of times. But yeah, that certainly helped. And then I had a lot going on, man, because I did that test. I did Iowa. I did a late model race with testing. I did a truck race in between. So I was getting after it as far as other stuff. But on the Cup side, it definitely gave me a break to kind of just think about how San Diego went. And, of course, I raced Chicago in between as well. So I had to prepare for that one. But there's definitely a lot going on. It's definitely not for a lack of effort.
One of the changes we've been seeing made this year is a little bit more practice time for the drivers. And you mentioned some of the preparation you did leading up to Indy. How important is that? Is that truly a big difference in terms of preparing for these races? Because I've seen people be all over the map when it comes to more practice. It's not necessary. Then you have fans saying, oh, anytime the cars are on the tracks, it's awesome. I'm curious to know from a driver, how important is it to have that practice, and how disappointed are you if you don't have that opportunity?
I think there's levels to it. I think if they were to add say there's a practice on Friday, a practice on Saturday, and you qualify on Saturday, that makes the most sense to me, because truly to make really good changes and as a driver be able to compartmentalize what just happened on Friday, be able to go into Saturday and actually make improvements, you really got to have a night to think about it, or at least a couple hours. Like if they just extend the practice from 20 minutes to 50 minutes like they do at some tracks, I mean, I don't know. I don't think you really get much better. You don't really learn a lot. I think to truly add practice and make the drivers happy, you got to either make them on separate days or just have one in the morning and one in the late afternoon to just have a good gap to debrief about the first practice as a driver, think about what could be better, and then go out there and execute that. So just adding time to one practice, I don't think makes much of a difference for me.
With the lack of passing that we had at Indy, everyone says it's an execution race, which requires a lot of focus and whatnot, and you seem to do it very well. I know you were focused going off into the pit, so you didn't see the 9th place finisher flip you off. I'm wondering if whether or not, from your car's perspective, because as the viewers, it's just glaringly obvious that you were in a venue that holds 250,000 people but only had 70,000 people there. Only 70,000 people there. Do you notice that when you're driving, that you're in a crown jewel race and all that stuff, but you kind of look up? It's something that I notice when I'm at the track and obviously on TV. Do you notice that?
Yeah. I mean, we take the trucks around, after driver intros and wave and everything. So you kind of get to scope that all out. Yeah. I mean, it sucks, man. I mean, you look at races, 20 years ago and they sold the place out, and now they're struggling a little bit. So But at the same time, there's races where it's like, wow, like Daytona 500, for example. I mean, they saw that place slap out. I mean, the camping is sold out. The stands are sold out. So it's definitely just dependent on the week. And, anytime you see a lot of empty space in the stands, it's sad to see, of course. But the fact that the viewership seems to be trending the right direction, everything is cool. And definitely hope that we're turning it around in the right direction.
Can I follow up with, you seem to have a very analytical mind. Every time I speak to you, you speak like somebody who is well beyond your years. Does that translate off the track? Is Corey Heim one of those guys that can't scramble an egg unless he's got 2 ounces of milk, exactly 16 dashes of pepper? Does it kind of come off? Because sometimes people are a lot different at work than they are at home. I'm one of them. Spider is another one. Is Corey Heim this analytical when he's putting together a fucking couch from IKEA?
No, I'm shooting from the hip on that side of stuff.
Okay, good.
On the racing side, I definitely like to analyze and, like you said, just try to run the numbers as much as I can. But yeah, no, I'm actually probably should be a little bit more methodical about my daily life. I'm sort of just winging it most of the time. So hopefully that answers your question.
Absolutely.
One thing I love to see is you and Booty Barker working together and the success that you've had. And I know obviously this year you had a lot to be proud of with the 2 wins already. And I would like to think you're exceeding your expectations. I want to talk about looking through the windshield ahead into next year. I guess, what are the expectations for 2027, given that you've already rattled off 2 wins as a part-time driver? And I hate to ask you this, is the 67 car definitely out for next year? And will you see Booty atop the pit box next year? Are you aware?
That would be a scoop, by the way. I don't know if you have to hold that shit for Bianchi or Pacris, but when you find out that Booty's on the booth next year, unless it's already been, I don't think it's been, I want to scoop that shit. Is Booty coming back next year?
It's a work in progress right now. I mean, I've really enjoyed working with Booty. I don't know if I'm even the final decision through all that, and it's a little bit too early to tell, but man, you can't say enough about that guy. He is a incredible human being and also an incredible crew chief. But what was the original question again?
Sorry, I kind of got I threw a bunch of stuff at you. I'm curious. I saw you said, and I kind of respect this. You're seemingly a no-nonsense driver, strictly business. And you said something like you don't like the fact that people are kind of making light of the 6-7 car number. I'm curious to know next year, it sounds like you'll be in the 35. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, so that was the original plan, and I guess it would still be trending that direction. But definitely a lot of fan interaction on that side of things. I've definitely been trending to consider running that number next year, so I don't think it's out of the equation. Denny on his podcast said it is official, but I don't believe that's true. So we'll have a conversation about it. It's a hot topic right now. But let's just make it very clear. I never said 67's a stupid, goofy number like Denny said. So he put words in my mouth there a little bit, but I did say that I think 35 is an objectively better looking number than 67, which I believe that is true to this day. But the fact that we've gone out and won 2 races and I've kind of set my brand sort of to that number, I feel like definitely helps the odds of it. So stay tuned. We'll see.
I hear you. We speak so much about the O'Reilly racing and how sometimes it gives us a better show than what we see on Sundays. You going from trucks to Cup Series full-time, and I know you have answered this. I'd listened to Door Bumper Clear. By the way, I got a shout-out on Door Bumper Clear, a Spider. Freddie had mentioned that we were here saying he should be throwing brick watches into the crowd, right? Like the whole deal. Do you think that you're becoming the poster boy for skipping O'Reilly and going straight to the Cup Series if you have the opportunity to? I know that's a very, you have to be extremely talented and have a spot to jump into and whatnot, but is it sort of becoming that argument that the O'Reilly Series doesn't really factor into Cup Series progression anymore?
Yeah, I've gotten this conversation or question asked a lot, and I my normal answer to it is like I really feel like it matters way more of who you're developing with and what team you're with rather than what series you're running in.
Okay.
I think if you're with a team that has, especially a manufacturer that has connections to Cup, people and teams, and you can sort of pick their brains on what Cup cars drive like and what the racing's like, and maybe even get lucky and get some sim laps with the Cup car early before you even step foot in one. I think that makes more of a difference than with, what series you're running in. Like I see some guys in O'Reilly right now, I'm like, wow, they're in a really good spot to actually get a head start on cup racing because they might get to test and they can ask these other guys how the cup cars drive and stuff. It really makes a big difference when you can just sit there and talk to a guy about their experiences with cup. And I've gotten a lot of opportunities to do that. And also it matters, how you're being developed. If your team takes your development seriously, if your manufacturer takes your development seriously, I think it comes down to more stuff like that rather than what series you're running in, honestly.
Last thing I got for you is I'm curious to know, is there any track which you have not raced on in a cup car yet that you're excited to next year in your full-time 2027 rookie season?
I would say I'm really excited to run Miami this year. Miami and Darlington both are on my schedule, and those are very challenging racetracks and ones that I'm cautiously optimistic about because I don't know if I'm going to get it right off the bat, but very challenging racetracks, but also look like a lot of fun. I've run them both in the truck and run pretty well. So I'd say those two are definitely the top of my list.
We spoke about Denny. I don't know if anyone has asked you this. Did MJ call you?
Yeah, I talked to him in Victory Lane.
Oh, did you? What was that like?
It was awesome. I didn't have my phone until like 4 hours after the race, but someone handed me a phone with MJ on the line and got to talk to him for a little bit. He was amped up and just said, great job. You did, executed that perfectly. And just to be able to kind of bullshit with him about the race and, talk to him was really, really cool. So that was a fun experience.
Piggybacking off that, I saw the Field and Stream car, which I thought was beautiful,
cool.
In Victory Lane. I didn't know, and I just learned that brand is owned by Eric Church and Morgan Wall, and I'm curious, did they reach out and congratulate you, and what's your level of country music fandom, if at all?
Yeah, I haven't heard from Morgan. I think Eric is definitely way more involved on that side of things. Like we also had a Chiefs car, like the Chiefs bar from Nashville on our Nashville car. And we got to do like a big event there and Eric Church was there and everything. And I got to talk to him a good bit actually when I was there. And then he sent me a video after the race, just congratulating me. So that was really cool to hear from him. But yeah, no, I'm big fans of both of those guys. I actually got to go to the ACM Awards show in Vegas a couple months ago, just kind of through all the connections on that side of things. So, I didn't grow up like a huge country music fan, but after like being involved with that sort of stuff, I've definitely converted to being a big country music fan. So that's been a fun experience.
That is cool as shit. So as we sort of see your career starting, in the Cup Series, obviously you've been racing for a while. What's the blind spot for you? What are you working on? What's the chink in Corey Heim's armor? Like, I don't do well on these tracks large. I don't do like that type of thing. What are you going to be working on actively as you enter into the season next year? What is Corey's blind spot, Achilles heel, however you want to do it?
I think next year the biggest challenge is really just going to be like the rapid fire of how brutal the schedule is. I've never run a full season of like, 39 weeks or 36 races, something like that. Man, I look at some guys that go from O'Reilly straight to Cup with really no bridge year in between and like having to figure that car out on a weekly basis. And like, you just got done struggling your butt off at one weekend and now you got to turn around and in 4 days you're practicing at the next one. Like,
right.
It's not easy. And in my few back-to-back races that I've had, I think I've done like 2 back-to-back weekends in my short Cup career so far. And it's very, very tough to just debrief and like understand what just happened in one race and then immediately turn around and start preparing for another one. You really don't get any off days or anything like that. So that's probably going to be the biggest challenge for me. The fact that I've only got 12 races this year and I can sort of debrief one race, take it easy for maybe a couple days, then slowly start preparing for the next one because I got 2 weeks to do it all. That has really helped me in my like mental side of things, just being really prepared mentally and physically. So yeah, it's going to be a grind for sure.
So we have Daytona coming up for you, and you said Miami. And what's the other two that are in between that for the complimentary?
Charlotte and Darlington.
That's fucking awesome. What were you saying?
Some good races, man.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, and I know, again, Large mentioned he got brought up on DBC because of his idea for you.
You were never brought up, by the way, Spider. They just mentioned me. I mean, I have a relationship with Freddie, but, whatever. Maybe next week.
I'm curious to know, Corey, are you a watch guy and what you think of maybe like the watch celebration large pitch that after you win, you give a watch to the crowd or you run into the crowd or something like that.
Yeah, I'm a watch guy. I've got one fancy watch, but I would definitely consider. I feel like I've got a pretty good little celly going on right now, but if we could elevate that and we need to mix it up a little bit, just because it's getting repetitive, I'm more than happy to. I need a deal first though, so I'm still working on that.
Yeah, I might know a guy with a bunch of watches that he can't sell. Yeah, but I don't know.
Want to cut that one. You might want to cut that.
You keep winning. You keep winning. So I'm not sure we could afford Corey Heim at the Brick Watch Company. But either way, great watches. Make sure you check them out. That's all I had for you, Corey Large. What do you got?
I have nothing else to say except Corey will be at Daytona, so we'll see you on the grid. I was just thinking in my head, Kyle Larson hasn't won a race in, I think, over 45 races. Think about that. Corey Heim would have won 6. And that's just me doing the math. You know what I'm saying? So this is Corey Heim. Yeah, he's the future of the sport. He's actually the president of the sport right now. We appreciate your time, Corey. We'll talk to you after your next win.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, so that was Corey Heim. I don't need to go over to you guys how much we've been impressed by this young man, but there it is. Like, cool, collected. He's 24. There's no goofiness there for some reason. And I try to get goofy with these kids. I sound so old when I say that. I try to get goofy. Hey, you fellow youngsters. But he's so fucking meticulous and stuff like that. And I was glad to hear that his bedroom is probably a mess, that he doesn't carry that over to all aspects of his life. But, it's certainly working for him right now. One of the things I wanted to mention, John Hunter Nemechek fucked Ryan Blaney. Like we're talking about how Corey Heim had put it in Carson Hocevar's seat. John Hunter, woo, Ryan Blaney. We were paying attention to that. The only bet that I had hit last week was the head-to-head Gilliland and Ryan Blaney. And I thought that was, I liked the midseason challenge. I really enjoy it. I enjoy talking about it. I enjoy betting on it, the whole deal. So it was a huge success, and congratulations to the Todd father, the new Gillionaire. We still don't know how much of it he's going to get, but he probably should know by next week. I think he's going to be hosting actions next week when Denny's on vacation, so it's cool. I love Todd Gilliland. I think it was a great thing. But John Hunter, man, and Ryan Blaney coming at him. Denny talked about him a little bit on this weekend's podcast. How do we feel about this, right? Is that the perfect ending for something like the midseason? We talked last week how it was almost Chase Elliott versus Ryan Blaney, and we sort of came to the conclusion that it's better this way to have the underdog. How do you guys feel about the midseason in general and Todd Gilliland winning it? And just, I don't know, talk about Todd Gilliland having $1 million in his pocket going into an off week.
It's great for him. I saw, I believe it was Christian Eckes, basically posting photos that like he was just adding shit to Todd Gilliland's tab, or like like Todd was a sugar daddy essentially for whatever trip they're going on. But I'm happy Todd won. Obviously, I would say if between Blaney and Todd, who am I more a fan of? Probably Blaney, just given, again, shout out Body Armor. But my thing is, like, who needs $1 million more? Blaney or Todd Gilliland? You know what I mean? So from that angle, I love it for Todd. And I'm more so curious because, like, obviously John Hunter fucked Blaney and he cost him. Blaney, as far as I'm concerned, took it pretty well. I did see they had a post-race conversation, but no fights or anything. I'm curious to know if you guys think if John Hunter did that to Todd Gilliland, who was dominating all day, leading, the favorite to win the $1 million, and then he wrecks a guy like Todd instead of Blaney. Does Todd kick his ass? Todd's like the nicest guy on the.
But I think that's a great question because it means so much more to Todd.
Yeah, it's a way bigger deal if it happens that way.
Even without the money, like the exposure that he's getting from this, just like Ty Dillon got last year. Man, that would be interesting to see Gilliland versus John. And by the way, John Hunter is no pushover. Smaller than Gilliland, but it looks like he can kick a little bit of ass. Yeah. I mean, of course, we'll throw out the rough and rowdy invite to anybody who wants to kind of do it. But that's an interesting question. Yeah, I think he would have been drawn and quartered if he would have did it to Gilliland, to be honest. What do you guys think?
NASCAR penalizes them those $75,000. That seems to be the going price for a punch now, though. So, like, if you lose $1 million, do you want to make it $1,075,000? You know what I mean?
That's true. Yeah. The Todd father throwing a punch on pit row post race at John Hunter would be a movie. I would love to see how that thing had played out. That's an excellent situation. I didn't think about that, Spider, because you're right. Blaney's like, okay. You know what I mean? I own a whiskey label.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My wife is a rocket ship. Like, he's got a lot of, not saying that Todd doesn't have a rocket ship wife, but it's one of those things where it's Blaney's like, yeah, I can make that up. But Todd might have went to the fucking mat with him, which would have been awesome. I had mentioned it was the only bet that I had hit last weekend. It certainly wasn't the only bet I placed, and I do them all through DraftKings. This summer, whatever you're watching, baseball, golf, soccer, racing, DraftKings has you covered for every single moment of it. The DraftKings Sports app is now available in all 50 states, bringing the game straight to your fingertips wherever you are, from Florida to Texas to California. You're in on the excitement at the speed of sports. Follow every buzzer beater, every walk-off, every photo finish. Sweat the moments that matter in real time with a seamless experience built for the biggest season of the year. No matter where you're watching, you're always connected and in the game with one app. And new DraftKings customers, sign up with code RUBBIN, RUBBIN. Spend $5 to get $150 in rewards within 14 days. Includes all markets. That's code RUBBIN. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. I feel good going into this off week, right? Like this is a nicely timed off week for the guys, and as you're talking to more and more drivers, they are dying just to kind of get out and do it. This is going to be very, very relaxed going into this, I don't know, home stretch before the chase begins. We're not supposed to say crown a regular season champion. I think they're saying we're finding out who the 1 seed is, but we'll be crowning a regular season champion. And I'm still so goddamn involved, but I'm also kind of cool that they're getting a week off. We will not be seeing any racing from NASCAR until the weekend of August 8th, 9th in Iowa, when we're going to see the O'Reilly End Cup Series out at Iowa Speedway. And then trucks get actually one more week off, and they come back at Richmond. Spider and I, we're going to be in Richmond. We're going to be boots on the ground at Richmond. We're also going to be in Daytona, and there's a chance we might also do this that race in D.C. We were just invited to that. So we'll toss around those ideas. So there's going to be a lot of us on the track. Is there anything else you guys want to cover before we get the fuck out of here and let people have a good week off?
No, that's really all I got.
So.
Shout out to Chris Bell getting his 6th P2 of the season. That's fucking crazy. But it is what it is. But as always, we thank you guys for listening. Thank you so much, Corey Heim, for taking some time with us. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks on Rubbin' Is Racing.